Facing the mortgage crisis means connecting troubled homeowners with trusted resources to prevent or delay foreclosure. It also means stabilizing neighborhoods plagued by empty houses. Tonight, in a special live broadcast, we will address both issues. If you are defaulting on your mortgage or equity loan or fear you might, grab a pen and paper and get ready to take down some important telephone numbers. It might be the most significant step you take this year. Good evening, I'm Ruth Ezell. Welcome to our second live broadcast devoted to addressing the fallout from America's mortgage crisis. Tonight, a panel of representatives from trusted nonprofit organizations in the St. Louis area will discuss what's being done in communities where foreclosed homes are threatening the stability of neighborhoods. In the second half of the program, panelists will take questions from concerned citizens in our studio audience. They will also take your questions by phone and email. You can either call us at 1-800-568-9099 or email your questions to mortgage@ketc.org. The telephones are being answered tonight by housing counselors from 5 different organizations. So if you are facing foreclosure of your home, if you've missed mortgage payments or fear you may miss them in the near future, please call 1-800-568-9099 right now and talk to one of the counselors. And if you want more information about receiving housing counseling, call the United Way 211 service at 1-800-427-4626. You'll notice in our studio tonight 2 people with laptop computers. One is taking your email questions. The other is providing a running account of tonight's show through Twitter. On our previous Facing the Mortgage Crisis special, panelists emphasized the importance of asking for help before it's too late. It's a message that bears repeating. If you dread the arrival of the mail because of what it might contain, like default notices from your mortgage lender, housing counselors understand how you feel. But here's what they'll advise you to do.
I would say, Ruth, don't ignore the situation. Don't think it's going to go away, because it's not. So open all the letters and all the pieces of mail that you get from your lender and make sure that you are communicating with your lender.
Linda Ingram is Director of Foreclosure Prevention Services for Beyond Housing. She says that when clients struggling to avoid foreclosure come to the agency for counseling, they need to bring their mortgage statement, related notices, and information detailing the monthly household budget. The intake form clients fill out include questions such as, how many payments have you missed? Have you filed for bankruptcy? How much money will it take to bring your mortgage current? Have you received letters from an attorney? A clear picture of a homeowner's situation enables counselors to figure out borrowers' options.
What we really try to do as housing counselors is to help the homeowner and the family come up with a plan of action. That's really what we want to do. It may not always be the plan they came in here thinking that they wanted to have, but we try to be very realistic and help them go over their budget, go over their situation, go over their hardship, whatever it was that caused them to get into this situation. We try to help them identify that and see what options they may have to get out of the situation or what options they may have to transition from their home to another place.
Beyond Housing is a member of the St. Louis Alliance for Home Ownership Preservation, along with Catholic Charities, Better Family Life, Acorn, and the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis.
All of us have been working in this arena.
Urban League President and CEO James Buford says the organization has been actively involved in the full spectrum of housing issues for 24 years. From offering weatherization services to homeowners needing help with maintenance to pre-purchase counseling for people seeking to buy a house.
And, let's be frank about it, Ruth. When we all go into a house, we're not as knowledgeable as we should be. And I know when I've gone through several closings on houses, they push paper in front of you so fast you don't know what you're signing. So this is one of the procedures in life, although it's one of the biggest purchases that you make as a human being, but it's one you go into much less knowledgeable of the process than you would in buying a car or an appliance and what have you, because it's a very complicated process with lots of entities: banks, mortgage companies, insurance companies, appraisers. It's a host of people.
All of which points out the importance of being financially literate, whether you own a home or not.
Your spending habits and your credit can affect your ability to acquire insurance, your ability to acquire employment. It's really, really far-reaching. And so understanding those things and even beginning to understand the difference between needs and wants is at the very core of financial education.
And if you need education on how to handle a particular mortgage or foreclosure issue, call right now at 1-800-568-9099 and talk to one of the housing counselors who are answering the phones. Now on our panel this evening, Karen Wallensack, Director of Catholic Charities Housing Resource Center of the Archdiocese of St. Louis. Catholic Charities is the largest provider of social services in the state of Missouri, and its programs help 120,000 people on average each year. Stephen Acree is President and CEO of the Regional Housing and Community Development Alliance. RHCDA works with community corporations in St. Louis City to develop and rehab affordable and market-rate housing. Krehmeyer is President and CEO of Beyond Housing. His organization provides affordable housing and home ownership services to families and senior citizens, along with a variety of educational, employment, youth development, and other support services. And Pamela Coaxum is St. Louis Director of Enterprise Community Partners Incorporated. Based in Columbia, Maryland, Enterprise provides financing and expertise to community and housing developers across the country. On its website, it says every 80 minutes, someone moves into a home Enterprise helped create. I'd like to welcome all of you tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
I would like to start tonight's conversation picking up where we left off last Tuesday. It was a different panel, of course. Linda Ingram, of course you know from Beyond Housing, had a touching and heartbreaking story. She mentioned a person had called in, was behind on their mortgage, they were about to be foreclosed upon, and they were contemplating suicide. And the one thing she said was, no house is worth that. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think the stress of potentially losing your home, we know, is absolutely terrible for families, and they struggle. And sometimes they don't reach out because they're embarrassed and they're afraid. What we have advocated and what the KETC is doing is wonderful, is telling folks, reach out, fight for your home, but at the end of the day, nothing is that important. But do fight. Don't give up. Don't be embarrassed. Make that phone call. There are people out here who want to help you stay in your home.
Yeah, Karen, I would imagine, have you gotten any calls like that?
Oh, certainly, and we always counsel people that, your house is a collection of systems. It's your plumbing, it's your electricity, it's the roof, it's the mortar and the brick. What makes your house a home is the people in it. Your happy memories are related to the people in it. So home is your family, and wherever you are with your family is home. And if that happens to look like your parents' basement for a few months, then that is home for you.
One question that, and we discussed this last week as well, but because we have a different panel, I'd like to get your perspective on this. And that is, there are people who are asking themselves, they're watching the show and they're saying, why should my tax dollars go to help bail out somebody who is in over their head because of a predatory loan, or they got a house that was too much house for them? What do you say to them?
Well, I mean, the response we typically have is, it's not unlike if you pull up to a car accident. The first thing you don't do, ask the people in the car accident, were you speeding, what are the laws that you broke, right? You lend assistance. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of blame we can affix throughout the whole process of this foreclosure mess we're all in. From the borrower to the broker to the appraiser to the investor, there's a whole lot of blame. At the end of the day, families are suffering, communities are suffering, and I think we are compelled to try to act. I mean, losing your home is such a traumatic thing. Home is indeed your family, but again, your family is placed around that structure where you sit around the dinner table and plant your dreams for the future and the place you come home to every night. So yes, we can affix blame if we want, but at the end of the day, people are suffering today. And quite frankly, if we don't address the situation today, we're still going to have to deal with it later on. And like most other things, if you can get it earlier, it's a lot easier to fix than if you wait till the problem's gotten really bad.
Exactly. From a taxpayer's perspective, it's like if you don't pay now, you may pay later and pay more.
Right. It affects us all. It just doesn't affect that individual homeowner that we're talking about. It affects the larger community. There's an investment there in the community that is being affected, and that affects, even if you're not concerned about that individual homeowner, it affects the neighborhood that you live in, the properties in your neighborhood. There's a whole, ripple effect that takes place, not just the loss of that individual home.
Okay. Pamela, I have a question for you, because Enterprise is nationwide in terms of its funding organizations. What kind of projects are you doing in other cities?
Well, we're doing a number of projects where we're investing in communities to help stabilize them, from helping to take foreclosed properties and helping nonprofits buy foreclosed or REO properties, rehab them, and sell them back to low and moderate income families. It's a program that we have operating in a number of cities, and we partnered with HUD, Catholic Charities, and St. Louis County to look at operating that program here.
Okay, now there is one project in particular. Of course, you're funding in part helping Stephen's organization.
Correct.
I know you have several projects going on right now, but there's one in particular I'd like to show our audience, because anyone who has lived in St. Louis for any amount of time knows about Crown Candy.
Right.
Yes.
And they're familiar with that pedestrian mall right across the street on the other side of St. Louis Avenue. So here's some before pictures of what it looked like before, and there's work going on. Tell us about what that's going to be.
Well, what it's going to be is it's going to take what is really the center of this neighborhood. So the town center of the neighborhood was the old commercial district that got closed off and turned into a pedestrian mall that was a sort of a late attempt to compete with suburban malls. And it didn't work. It became abandoned. What this will do is open that back up, knit it back into the community, put the streets back in, and create a mixed use development that will be residential and commercial, affordable and market rate, a mix of different types of housing in there. About 35,000 square feet of commercial and 80 apartments, lofts, and townhouses. Okay,
and you do this in conjunction with neighborhood organizations?
We do in Old North St. Louis neighborhood, where the Crown Candy is, and this is right across the street. There's a great organization there, Old North St. Louis Restoration Group, and these are the types of organizations that we exclusively work through. Neighborhood-based community organizations, where it's the folks in the neighborhood who are determining what they want to see happen to revitalize their community, and then what they do is they work with us to help make that vision happen for them.
In terms of neighborhood stabilization, Beyond Housing right now has been getting a lot of attention for your counseling services, but there's a lot more that you do. We sent a crew out this morning to a woman's house who's a client of yours. She's getting her roof repaired. I want to show that right now. She's getting her roof repaired by a crew thanks to money that was provided through the city of St. Louis. If you could just explain that program.
Sure. With our good partners, Catholic Charities, we run the Healthy Home Repair Program, which this year will help almost 250 existing homeowners with code violation repair, lead-based paint remediation, in this case, putting a new roof on this house. A lot of seniors in the program, folks who have lived in their homes almost their whole lives, raised their kids there, and now their economic capacity to care for their home is starting to wane a bit. So what the program tries to do is stabilize the home, take care of the major building systems, deal with all the code violation work, and have a lead-safe home that is, again, makes that homeowner feel proud, a good member of her community. So the home rehab is one of many tools for neighborhood stabilization. So we're proud to be a partner with Catholic Charities in the city to run that program, in addition to some of the other programs we run where we buy and rehab homes, build new homes for home ownership, build homes that we add to our rental portfolio. We own 230 single-family homes that we rent to low-income families and then provide services for them. So there's a whole toolbox of programs that a lot of us around the table and others in this region provide for families and for communities.
Thanks. For those of you who are just joining us, you are watching a live broadcast here on KETC Channel 9, Facing the Mortgage Crisis. We have housing counselors taking calls from bi-state area residents who are struggling to prevent foreclosure of their homes. If you want to speak to a counselor right now, or if you have a question for one of our panelists, please call 1-800-568-9099. And if you want more information about housing counseling, call the United Way 211 service at 1-800-427-4626.